and lessons. First and foremost, always read the recipe before you begin. This step is often overlooked, but is essential to every baker's success. Reading the recipe ensures you know what you are getting into and allows you to plan, ingredient and time-wise. Do you need to prep any ingredients? Does the recipe require a chill or resting time? Once you read the recipe, ensure you follow each step correctly. Mise en place. Tip number 2 goes hand in hand with tip 1. Mise en place, translated to everything in its place, means having all of the ingredients measured out and prepared in any way. Any supplies you will need while baking should also be within reach. Your oven should be on, pans should be greased, and you should be ready to go. This prevents forgetting to include any ingredients or using one twice. It also gives you a chance to be sure you have enough of each of anything. No running to the store mid-process. Be sure you are properly measuring each ingredient. Baking is a science, and each ingredient needs to be measured accurately. In baking, there is no measure with your heart. My heart tells me everything should have extra vanilla and lots of brown sugar. But sadly, over-measuring those ingredients does not lead to extra sweet and delicious cookies. It leads to a soupy, caramelized mess in your favorite baking pan. So how do you measure correctly? One helpful hint is that wet ingredients belong in liquid measuring cups, picture glass Pyrex ones, and dry ingredients belong in dry ingredient cups, think the plastic ones that come stacked together. Also, when measuring dry ingredients, be sure to use a flat edge to level off each cup, and be sure to measure liquids on an even surface and look at the fill line at eye level. However, in all honesty, the most accurate way to measure out a recipe is to convert everything into grams and weigh all of your ingredients. Look to Google for help if the recipe doesn't already offer a conversion. Room temperature is key. All of your ingredients should ideally be at room temperature. Unless the recipe specifically states for the butter to be chilled, having room temperature ingredients ensures proper emulsion when mixing. Eggs at room temperature tend to break down more easily than when cold. Plus, once you've creamed your butter, adding cold dairy or eggs could cause the batter to separate or stiffen up, leading to more work on your part, which is never fun. Always chill your cookie dough before baking. Chilling your dough does 2 things, resulting in a better overall end result. 1, it prevents the cookies from spreading too much. This is because by chilling your dough, you've allowed the fat to re-solidify. Cold butter melts slower than room temperature, yes? Thus, the butter in your now cold dough will melt slower, giving your cookies the perfect amount of spread. 2, giving your dough time to rest allows the sugar and flour to absorb moisture, resulting in a richer, fuller flavor. Knowing when to pull things out of the oven is often something bakers struggle with in the beginning. Yes, every recipe will tell you how long to bake something, but since every oven is different, it's important to know what to look for and not just blindly follow the recipe. Cakes and other loaf-like goods tend to begin pulling away from their pan when finished baking. If this doesn't help, or you just want to be extra sure, stick a toothpick into the center of the cake. Does it come out primarily clean without wet batter? It's done! When baking cookies, look for light golden brown edges, and when baking bread, turn that baby over and knock on it. If you hear a hollow sound, you know it's done. Place a piece of bread in your cookie container to preserve fresh baked softness. This tip may seem like an old wives' tale, but trust me, it is a tried and true life hack. Sugar is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture. Since cookies have a higher sugar content than bread, the sugar in the cookies will absorb and retain the moisture from the bread. One time I burnt my chocolate chip cookies so bad they came out of the oven rock hard. I thought they were going to end up in the trash, but I decided to try out this bread trick. The next morning, I woke up to a super stale piece of bread, but my cookies were saved. Since then, I've always stored my cookies with a piece of bread, and to this day, I have yet to bite into a cookie softer than mine. Substitute sensibly. Have you ever gone to bake something and realize you've run out of eggs? Luckily, thanks to technology, substitutions are often a finger click away. But don't think that one simple Google search means you can replace your missing eggs with anything. As mentioned in tip number 3, baking is a science and not every ingredient can be replaced with anything. Changing just one component around may change the consistency, baking time, and taste of your baked goods. It might even render them unusable at all. If you wish to substitute, do your research and see other people's results before jumping right in. When working with chocolate, using a drop of neutral oil will thin it out. I prefer to use coconut oil, but any neutral vegetable-based oil will do. This is a quick fix for obtaining the desired consistency, whether you are dipping or drizzling. It's also the perfect way to make sure your fondue stays at the ideal dipping texture. Plus, if you're anything like me and have ever accidentally overheated your chocolate, this can turn that thick, chunky mess back into beautiful chocolatey silk. Do not over-mix. Many people are overzealous when it comes to the final step in many recipes, folding in the flour. You may feel the need to mix until your batter is perfectly smooth and all the lumps are out. Resist this urge. Overmixing leads to a denser, gummier product. Each time you fold the flour into the wet batter, you are knocking more and more air out of that fluffy butter. In addition, with each mix, the gluten in the flour is developing more and more. Stronger gluten means firmer texture, aka your cake will have the mouthfeel of bread. Yuck. When beating egg whites, stiff peaks will eventually break and your meringue will fall if whipped too much. Even just butter and sugar can be overbeaten. Be sure to stop once the butter is light and fluffy. Overbeating butter results in separation and a soupy, grainy mixture. Everything in moderation, right? That accounts for the real world as well as the baking world. HowExpert publishes how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more.